What's the pettiest reason you've rejected someone? Went on a first date with someone that was out of my league. Couldn't believe my luck. On our way to dinner, everything was going fine and the conversation was flowing. She seemed really into me. Suddenly, she screamed at me to stop the car. Not pull over, stop right here, right now, immediately in the lane of a 4-lane major road. Just before it came to a complete stop in the middle of this busy road, she opened the passenger door and tried to jump out. If a cop saw all this, it probably looked like she was escaping. She jumped out of the car and played Frogger across 2 lanes of traffic, and I sat there stunned with my passenger door hanging open to traffic. A few seconds later, she came running back with something under her arm. I couldn't see what it was in the mirror. She had a huge smile on her face, and as she climbed back into the car, she squealed with delight as she showed me what it was. A hubcap. She said it was to commemorate our first date and that we could share custody of it. I could have it first. That was our first and last date. I'm now imagining her doing something similar after every first date. Like, that's just her move. Story 2. Went on a day hike with him. Halfway through the hike, we came upon a spotted skunk. I started backing off, and when he asked me why, I told him it was a skunk. He argued with me, saying it was a weasel, not a skunk, because skunks have stripes and that I obviously don't know what you're talking about. When I kept insisting, he said, "I'll prove it to you." As he started walking towards it, famous last words. Anyway, he gets sprayed, obviously. We have to stop our hike short, and I make him ride in the bed of my pickup on the way home. I called it off after that, mainly because he didn't listen to me, and I hate being told I don't know what I'm talking about when I know what the facts are. Story 3. We spent our first day browsing various record shops in Manhattan and Greenwich Village. I took him to my favorite ones. I told him what Elton John album I thought was best. He disagreed and was adamant I was wrong. He was going to a party at his brother's after and didn't believe in subways. The party was 100 blocks away in Brooklyn. Decided to walk him to the party despite having mild asthma and severe postnasal drip. Once there at the door, he decided it wouldn't work out because he couldn't put our differences aside. His last words were, "Do you really believe Honky Chateau is his best work?" Of course I do. He had this horrified, disgusted face on and said, "Yeah, no, that's just wrong. Not gonna work out since you have poor taste." Literally got rejected over Honky Chateau, but it's okay. My father-in-law thinks that album is the hottest stuff. Story 4. He told me that he knew Latin, and as a classicist, mainly Greek, but I know Latin too, this was one of the things that made me agree to go on a date with him. I thought that even if I didn't like him, we could have some interesting conversations, and I'm always excited to make new classics friends. At the dinner, I laughed about something and said, "In vino veritas." What? You know, in vino veritas. Turns out he didn't know Latin at all. He'd lied and thought he could get away with it. There was no third date, and although I didn't say it, it was clear he knew exactly why. Story 5. We were going to be having a little picnic in the local park. Nothing fancy, just picking up fast food and chilling at a local park by a river. And when we stopped to pick up food from a local fast food chain, they took a really long time to order. Like holding the line up for long enough that not only did I already get my food, but they were asked to step aside so that other people could order. They then proceeded to cause a scene by getting mad at the guy behind the counter to the point they were told to leave. I then drove them home, and they were so angry about the trip to the Burgerville that they ranted the whole way and missed the fact that it drove them home. The exchange was great. Parked in front of their apartment. Them. I can't believe they were so rude to me. Never going back to that place. Me. Well, we're here. Them, not stopping the rant. Seriously, those people. Who do they think they are? Me. Please get out of my car. Them. Those people telling me that I'm a problem. Me. Please get out of my car. Them. Continues ranting. I start getting out of the car with the intent to hop back in when they get out. They get out the car angrily and slam the door. I hop back in and lock the doors. Them. I can't believe it. Wait, this isn't the park? Me shouting out my window as I start to pull away. It's been fun. Have a better day. They started screaming obscenities as I pulled away. They called me almost nonstop until I blocked their number. So my initial reason was petty, but I'd say it worked out for the better. Story 6. I was rejected because I didn't like the taste of his preferred drink. That was it. I wasn't asking him to stop drinking it, I just didn't personally want to drink it. We were about to order another round. He asked if I knew the one he had just had and offered me a taste. I gladly accepted because I tried to be open to tasting new things. I just said I found it a little too hoppy for my tastes, and I was happy to stick to what I was drinking. I wasn't rude. I said it was nice, but a little hobby for me. His face dropped. It was almost comical. He then said something along the lines that he had changed his mind and he had better get home. That was the end of that first date. As in, he literally decided he no longer wanted another round. The date was over. He had blocked me on Facebook before I walked the 100 meters to the bus stop. Pretty sure I dodged something there. Story 7. He looked over his shoulder as he was leaving after our first date. But he did it in this insanely convoluted, I'm in a Lifetime original movie and this is my scene kind of way. It was so deliberate and odd. I started looking behind me to see if there was something shocking going on in the back of the Starbucks. Nope, just Keith having his glowing moment in the spotlight. It seemed like a really fake thing to do. And I got the immediate impression that he was either so insecure that he chose to emulate Hollywood tropes rather than cultivate his own personality, or he had a bad case of main character syndrome. And as it turned out, he did. We only texted for a few days after, but it was nonstop selfish lies and small drama the whole time. Politely declined a second date, and then found a rose in a note in my car a few weeks later that said, this could have been our love story, with a picture of Brad Pitt he'd got from the magazine. Nobody else in the picture, just Brad Pitt. Story 8. So, here we go. Story time. A few years ago, I was dating this cute girl, sweet, tender, and super into me. Why, you ask? I do not know, but she did, and I was oh so damn infatuated that everything she did was so cool and cute. I was about 22 and she was around 20, if I remember correctly. It was all laughs and games until one day, a few months into dating, we went to the cinema. We were watching a corny movie about two cancer patients falling in love. I was actually going to come out and tell her to be my girlfriend and stuff. But partway through the movie, the couple went to Anne Frank's house and I said, that's nice. I want to go there someday. And she replied, well, why? Who is she? At first, I was quite dumbfounded. But in my naivety, I thought, well, maybe she doesn't remember her by her name. But surely she knows who she is by common knowledge, right? So I told her, oh, the Jewish girl with a diary during the Holocaust. And the look she gave me was as if I was telling her something in dialect. So she again asked me, the Holocaust? What's that? Here I'm beginning to catch on that this sweet cutesy act wasn't a facade. Something was not right here. But in the last attempt at believing in her and thinking to myself, hold on, I'm throwing big words at her like I'm a professor. Let's speak a little clearer. I said, the Holocaust? All the crimes and stuff? She looked at me as confused as my family when I started rambling about Star Wars or something that they're simply not into. I'm no history scholar or any kind of erudite, but come on. There are things that you know, that you assume everyone around you know. The sun is bright, the earth is round, people end. But then this girl didn't know, not even in passing, about one of the most gruesome episodes in our history or did not know the name of one of the biggest monsters of our time. I lost it. I just told her, it's okay, we'll talk about it later. Movie ended, we got out, I took her to her home. I said that I had a very nice night, but that maybe things wouldn't work out. And we left it at that. Was I the bad guy? Probably. Was there something to be done? Yeah, maybe. Did I feel so utterly speechless that I preferred to remain single than to continue that relationship? Yes. And no, she was not homeschooled nor Austrian. Mind you, I assume that everyone knows that the earth is round example was before all the flat pancake theory. Story 9. I got so many guys I dumped within the first 2 weeks. Here's 8 examples. Insisted that I call him Dumplin'. His name was Donald and everyone in his life called him Dumplin'. Did not have soap in a shared studio apartment. He lived with 2 other guys. Refused to eat vegetables. Spent 4 hours cooking beef bourguignon for him and he flatly told me he was upset I included vegetables. Claimed he spoke 5 languages, including Spanish. When I asked him a simple question, ¿Cómo se dice beautiful in español? He answered yes in English. Would purchase 7 cans of corn and mix it with cheese and claim, that's my meal for the week, with emphasis on the my meal part. Claimed that his sensei made a permanent indentation in his sternum to teach him a lesson. Claimed to know Latin despite going to a public high school in Texas. No college. Insisted that he had an AA in astrology. Despite that, such a degree does not exist. I now understand that my presumptions of Latin not being available in Texas high schools was my own bias. When I asked number 7 to give me some Latin, it was nonsense sounds with clicks and the same phrase would never be repeated the same way. I conceded he was lying about knowing Latin. My apologies to the state of Texas. In regards to number 1, I cannot introduce my family to a man I'm dating as Dumplin'. I would get roasted for years. Is it petty? Yeah, that's why I submitted it. With number 6, I assume was born with a little dip in his chest, but made up a story to make it sound more cool. It was like Mac from Sunny. Ocular pat-downs and karate chops all day. Yes, I have super bad taste in men. Over the years, I've learned to notice red flags and came up with a personal set of rules to date me. Super basic stuff that I'm sure normal women get naturally, like you need to have your own transportation. Don't bum right off me to go hang with your boys. You need to have your own income. Don't make me pay your child support. It's a pretty low bar that requires just a little effort. Eventually, I figured it out and married a pretty nice guy. Story 10. I once went on a date with a man who said that dogs were incapable of walking backwards at all. I told him that I had a dog and she was certainly capable of backing up, but he doubled down, saying it simply was not possible for them to do so. I was genuinely in disbelief, but asked him to come to my apartment about a mile away. I'm sure he thought we were going to be getting down to business, but no. I had invited him over for the sole reason of showing him dogs can back up. As we sat on the couch, my dog came up for pets, and upon seeing she couldn't walk behind the couch and coffee table to leave, she backed up and left the room. I just looked at him, expecting him to admit he was wrong. He blurted out, "Well, they can in an emergency." I told just about everyone I knew, and my family and I still joke about it years later. Story 11. He said a bad word. My friend was trying to get me to date the best friend of the guy she was dating. We were all still young, so dating just meant hanging out at the park together. So just like being friends, except maybe if no one was looking, they'd kiss. I really wasn't interested, but everyone in the little friend group really wanted us to be a couple for some reason. Maybe it was because we both had glasses. He said he'd do anything, so I told him if he didn't swear for a whole week, then we could date. I was the annoyingly good girl, and he was one of the kids who just recently started swearing a lot to try and sound grown up and cool. I caught him saying trash, so he lost his chance. He actually was really trying. He just didn't know that trash counted as a swear to me. If he finds this, I'd like to say sorry for being such a schmuck about that challenge, but I don't think we would have made a great couple. If it makes you feel any better, I don't think you missed out on much by not dating young me. Story 12. We were going up the escalator at Wimbledon Park tube station, and he kept grabbing my bum. It was really awkward because I had a short dress on and there were people behind us. I feel like that's why he was doing it. Like he was trying to get a reaction from people or trying to show off. Also, he used to talk to me like I was his pet. He didn't talk to me like a human being. Like he just thought I was this silly little thing he liked having around to look at, but didn't take anything I said seriously. I liked it at first because I was pretty young and he bought lots of nice dresses and jewelry, yada yada. But I became bored of him after a while and left. Story 13. There were many reasons. Individually petty, but not when combined. One of the reasons I knew it wasn't working, we were dating, he told me he honestly believed he was a vampire and needed to have a sausage at least once a week to keep himself healthy because of it. He had those vampiric fangs. Company name, not name calling. I asked, if he was a vampire, why did he have to buy plastic fangs instead of having his own? He was a teenager at the time. He also said he wanted to grow his hair. He was a rocker and was proud of the growth he had. When we met up again, I saw he was short and asked him what changed his mind. Apparently, his mom told him to have it short. He refused, even cried over not wanting to be short, but, and I quote, "She's my mom. She's a hairdresser. She knows what's best for me." He turned up with those fancy dress-level fake tattoo sleeves. He genuinely thought they looked real and wouldn't admit they were fake until 2 days later, thinking he got one over on me. Teenage me really liked him, but the stupid was just too strong. Oh, but he chewed with his mouth open. That was the most heinous of all and the final straw. Story 14. She made a fool out of me 6 years earlier. She was one of the hot girls in 6th grade and we had our first big dance coming up. We had free time in gym class, so all the guys were doing hoops and most of the girls were sitting in the bleachers talking. I was kind of a weird kid at the time, so it was a nice surprise when one of her friends came down in the middle of everyone to bring me a note from her asking me to the dance. It was a check yes or no kind of thing, and I immediately checked yes and sent it back. Then I got a bunch of pats in the back from the other guys and stuff. So the dance was after school in the cafeteria. And when I got there, I walked up to her with her whole group of friends with a flower I brought her and asked her to dance. She started laughing like crazy and said, "You really believe that? You thought I would want to go to the dance with you?" Everybody laughed and I was humiliated, so I left and waited a few hours by the football field until my mom came to pick me up and just told her I had a great time. So, fast forward to our senior year in high school, I had kind of blossomed over the years and grew into myself. She remained one of the popular hot girls, but was teetering on the line of being a religious person. Well, it was no secret that she had developed a bit of a crush on me from 10th grade on. She asked me out a few times, and I always politely told her off. So the end of her senior year comes. She asked me to go to prom with her, and I declined and went with a friend instead, but we were in the same prom group. After prom, we all went to the same house party to stay the night, and she confronted me and asked me why I never gave her the time of day. I was honest with her and brought up the 6th grade dance incident, and she said she didn't even remember doing that to me. I couldn't believe it. Probably not the pettiest thing on here. I could have accepted her prom invitation and stood her up or something, but I froze her out for years and it was way more satisfying for me to take the high road than to humiliate her like she did me. Perfectly handled. She would have remembered. Then she lied about it instead of apologizing. Story 15. I was on a date with a girl one time, and as we were driving to dinner, she started freaking out and said I needed to stop right away. So I stop, she gets out right away, and proceeds to walk up to the house we just stopped in front of. I see her go up and knock on the door, speak with the owner. Owner shuts the door on her and she proceeds to go to the next house. She does this 3 times until I yell out the window, "What's going on?" She proceeds to come back into the car, looking very sad, and tells me that the people in the neighborhood are not nice at all. She absolutely refused to tell me what she was doing. I was weirded out a bit, but we continued to dinner. Things ended up going well. Later that night, I started bugging her to tell me what happened when we stopped in the car earlier. She finally opened up and told me that she saw some frayed eyebrows on herself and needed them plucked ASAP. She had no tweezers, so she went door to door asking if she could use the person's bathroom and tweezers. Apparently, she's extremely OCD about her eyebrows. I don't know if she was messing with me or not, but she looked serious, and that answer really threw me off. We didn't see each other after that. Story 16. In high school, I really liked the guy who was in one of my classes 2 years in a row. Super nice guy. Moved to my area from Hawaii, played in our high school football team, and had really good long wavy hair. No idea why he talked to me. He was definitely out of my league by a mile, but I felt like he might have been somewhat interested in me. I was working, taking way too many advanced classes, and sleeping like 2 hours a night, so I fell asleep at school constantly. I took an English final before the class I had with this guy, and I was beyond exhausted when he walked in with a man bun. I know some guys can pull that off, but he could not. And in my mental state, I was not prepared to be nice. I laughed. He was very offended and never talked to me in class again. Our friends were appalled when I told them what happened, but when I pointed it out before graduation, I got a general consensus that it looked pretty ridiculous. Never saw him again. Attractive Hawaiian football player from my high school, if you're out there, please put the rubber bands and scrunchies down. It's just not for you. Story 17. It may seem petty, but because they had a dog. Dogs can be very needy, and ownership of one really is a lifestyle choice. They demand attention and sacrifice. For example, just leaving the house for one night is just not always possible depending on the dog and the person's circumstances. Heck, I've even known people not being able to leave the dog alone for more than a few hours. Then there's the whole, kind of obsessive nature a lot of people have over them. Some people treat their dogs like royalty and let their dogs rule the roost, so to speak. They put their dog first in every decision they make. This just isn't compatible with me. I want to be spontaneous and be free from worrying about getting back for a dog. I also have enough self-esteem to not want to be in second place to an animal competing for my partner's affection. Then there's the whole hygiene side too. I find most dogs dirty and smelly, and people seem to have no problem letting their dogs lick them, drool on them, etc. So yeah, as soon as I know she has a dog, it is usually an instant no from me. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 18. Started talking to a guy in OkCupid. He seemed nice, mature, funny, and grounded. He was driving through my town for work, so we agreed to meet up. And one day to find out the following. He and I had the same last name. Not a big deal, but our first names were close in spelling. We had similar features, and all I could think was people would make inbreeding jokes. I live in Alabama. He admitted that a few months prior was the first time he had brushed his teeth in a year. He literally went 365 days without brushing his teeth. He admitted he used mouthwash, but that was it. He hated brushing, so he just stopped doing it. He only started back after his job required a yearly physical and dental exam to keep getting a discount in their health insurance premiums. I kept looking at his teeth the rest of the night. All I could think about was the poor dental hygienist that had to clean those teeth. He loved wearing Hawaiian shirts, khaki shorts, socks with sandals on his days off. He said that is what I would have to expect every day all year long if he wasn't working. Outside of work, he would never dress up for anything. Not for going to church or weddings or even funerals. He was diabetic. That part didn't bother me. What did was the way he gave himself an insulin medicine prior to eating. He kept an old elasticose-like tube in his bag and would put it around his arm for a tourniquet while rolling up or pushing back the sleeve on his arm. He then would thump his veins frantically. After giving himself the insulin, he would say, "Wow, that makes me feel so much better." People stared at us. They wanted to move in with me prior to getting married. This is the first date, mind you. He was excited that I owned my own home and I don't have a mortgage. He wanted to be the one to plan the wedding. He loved planning parties and events, so he wanted to handle the whole thing. He loved going to Hobby Lobby and knew he could make most of the decorations himself. Story 19. My buddy broke up with a girl when she put aluminum foil in his microwave. I was there and saw it all happen. She comes to his house with some leftovers of some sort, tosses it into the microwave, all balled up in foil. Start the microwave. Sits there and stares at it for about 15 seconds as lightning bolts are going off in his microwave, and she's like, "Hey, something's wrong with your microwave." He runs to the kitchen, turns it off, and starts laughing and calls me in there, and he's like, "Dude, tell her I'm not making this up." I'm like, "What? You can't put foil in the microwave?" "Yes, that's correct." She swore her microwave could handle it and that she was just used to her microwave. Super defensive and rude about it. She got low-key embarrassed, got into an argument. She threatened to leave, and he told her to just go home then. Ultimately, he broke up with her for a combination of stupid moments like that, but the tinfoil in the microwave was the straw that broke the camel's back. Also, he told me that when it was just the two of them alone, she'd talk with an exaggerated, stereotypical black accent or slang. She was a white rural type of girl. He was a black kid, but was born and raised in a very white area in the PNW. No accent. He told me he was on the brink of breaking up with her over that because she wouldn't stop. But then the microwave thing happened and he was done. Story 20. I don't know whether it's petty per se, but I once went on a date with a girl and we went out for lunch at a reasonably priced pub. The lunch was nice and we sort of gelled, but there was no real spark. It was just average, the kind of connection where you could make decent friends, but not a romantic couple. The kind of date where you'd need a second one only to really judge whether you're compatible. Anyway, we get to the end of the meal and the bill arrives. She immediately says, "I don't have any money." Oh, what? I mean, I was going to offer to pay anyway, but you came out on a lunch date with no money? Why didn't you tell me before we ordered? What if I hadn't had enough myself to cover us both? I was polite about it and said, "No worries, I'll pay." But you bet as soon as I got back in my car to head home, I deleted her number and never spoke to her again. I didn't even get a smooch out of the deal. No, I'm not the type who thinks paying for a meal entitles me to a physical reward from a date. I just like smooches. I didn't receive one on this occasion. Literally just drove 45 minutes to buy someone lunch. Man always pays in the first date. If you think otherwise, don't invite someone out to accompany you. Story 21. Before I say, I need to offer some context. At the time, I was maybe 32 or 33, overweight, and facial appearance is at best a 5 out of 10, so I'm not exactly a looker. I'd got set up on a blind date. I was reluctant to go simply because if I don't like myself, it seems reasonable that others wouldn't. She was very pretty, clearly out of my league, but I was myself and she seemed to not be concerned with my appearance. As the evening was progressing, I became acutely aware that she was making a lot of references to her and her family's wealth. She mentioned a Michael Kors bag a few times and was telling me how her and her sister had matching Mercedes-Benz and that her horses had their own stylist and various other things, which were all seemingly just mentioned to show off their wealth. And as petty as it may seem, it completely and utterly put me off. Maybe I'm absolutely stupid for not bothering again with her. Some friend said I was dumb because she was attractive and had bundles of money, but it just really irked me and I couldn't wait to get away from the situation. Story 22. I will preface this by saying I'm stupid. Here are the pettiest. Senior in high school, a girl wanted to go out with me. Her friend was hounding me to go out with her. She was cute too, but she was a sophomore, so I refused. Met a girl at a party. We got along and spent the whole time chatting it up. We went on a date. She wore some shorts that made her bum look too big. Co-worker at the time, we had uniforms, so I only ever saw her in uniform. Met up after work and she was wearing Birkenstocks. I hate Birkenstocks. Got invited to a dinner at an older acquaintance's house. Turns out she and her husband wanted something that involved us three. I don't want to see the husband bare. Noped out of there. Got to meet up with a girl I had met at a party. We'd talk on the phone for hours. In person, not so much. I thought that was weird. And here's the pinnacle of my stupidity. A friend of mine set me up with her friend. She'd talked her up and she hadn't exaggerated. Gorgeous from head to toe. Still lived at home, really into family. She was super nice, caring, total wife material. I could find nothing wrong with her. And that's what was wrong with her. Even my friend was like, "She really likes you." What is wrong with you? There have been others not so petty. There's a pattern for me. I've been dating a girl for several months now. I was going to pull the same things again on her, but I finally realized I was being a bad guy. Glad I didn't. Longest relationship I've been in to date. Story 23. I invited a high school date over to my house. Didn't know I had 2 dogs at the time, twin pups from the same litter. He waited upstairs and my dogs got curious. Both were under 10 pounds each. He didn't like how my dog jumped on him and he punted my dog down the stairs. He was about to do it to the other dog, who just had hip surgery at the time, and he told him to get out and never come back. My dog was okay, but my dad was so confused why I wasn't going on a date with that guy. I explained to him and he said to me, "And you didn't punt him down the stairs after you did that?" I should mention that many people from my school heard I rejected him for no reason, even after I explained everything. The guy was just petty about me rejecting him, so he made up lies. I stopped dating people from my high school after that. Story 24. Oh God, I'm not sure this is really petty, but it's worth sharing. So I met this guy and we got along so well. Pretty much my ideal match. He was also a single parent, which meant he auto-understood my life and priorities, etc., which non-parents often can't fully grasp. Attractive, funny, intelligent, and to the same scene. Alt, totally different bars, etc., so this is a factor. Same likes, etc. Had a couple dates and I really liked him. Then we both attended the same alt club night and I went back to his after. Oh my God, his place was the grimiest place I've ever seen. No carpet, furniture all trashed, rubbish everywhere, stank. Bed was a mattress with no sheet or covers, etc. There were piles of junk and rubbish literally everywhere. Bath covered in scum, toilet bowl brown, etc. In his bedroom, there were half-eaten plates of food literally on the floor, among the dirty clothes and everything else. The fact he was raising a child in that environment terrified me. It was immediately obvious our priorities weren't as similar as first thought. Oh, and his cat whizzed in my boot. As for actual petty, I've rejected more than one guy for suggesting we move talking from the dating app to Snapchat. To me, the place is made for bad intentions. I've rejected guys my dog hasn't warmed up to. Story 25. I was rejected by this guy. First date, great online banter, get to the trendy casual bar and he's a bit late. Totally fine, but he's sweating like crazy. He says he just came from the gym. I say, okay, well, let me get you a drink. I do. He isn't saying much and isn't responsive to what I'm saying. I chat lightly for a bit and leave plenty of space for him to chat too. Then I leave a bit longer. It's his turn to talk. He hasn't touched his drink. He looks at his phone and then says, "Actually, I better go." And I say, "Yeah, I guess you better do." But then he feels he has to justify it with this lame story. My sister got a snake and the snake has been sick, so I'm worried about her and I better go and see how she is. I laughed and said, "Oh dear. Yes, you'd better go see how your sister's snake is while I'm going to finish my drink." And off Mr. Sweaty goes to see if his sister's snake is still sick. Story 26. I was working at a call center for a few months and there was a beautiful Venezuelan girl that worked there. I'm shy but decent looking. I can confidently say I was the best looking guy at that office. Lol. Anyway, we weren't supposed to have electronics on the floor since we deal with people's SSN numbers. I knew how to get around their block slightly so I could bring up Reddit without any images, only text, and I would just read comments because that job was so boring. One day she came and sat next to me. I always took the farthest spot. It was asking me about going out and if I drank or have a girlfriend. At the time, I hated that job and kind of lumped all my coworkers together, so I was ignoring her for a minute when she started talking. I can't remember what I told her, but it was along the lines of, "I'd rather read Reddit than listen to anybody in this office." She had an angry expression and she shut down her computer and never looked at me again. I only worked there for 2 months and it was 10 years ago, but I still feel bad for it. Sorry to the cute call center girl. I'm an idiot. Story 27. More of a friends with benefits type of thing, but it did several strange things, but I'll give the two that stand out the most. First off, I'm Hispanic, but mostly white. You wouldn't know I'm Mexican without me telling you. But this white man thought it'd be cute to call me Chica and spell it like Chica. Cringe. Every time. And he'd always be showing off in weird nonchalant ways. When he came over once, he took his weapon out, emptied the ammo, and set it down on my bed. Like, what? Just kind of stood there like, what the frick? And he was like, "Oh, that's just something me and my buddies do." And so he reloaded it and put it in his jacket or whatever. Why did he think it was a good idea to bring one to my place? And then load it and reload it too? I stopped talking to him shortly after that. Story 28. A good friend and fellow firefighter introduced me to a beautiful lady that had 3 kids. She had been separated for 3 months and shared custody. No problem for me. Our first day was a double day with our friend and his girlfriend. Just dinner and drinks at a sports bar. And our second date, she came to my place, the lobby of a condo building, to pick me up, with the kids. She showed up in a minivan with 3 very loud misbehaving brats. She claimed that the father had to work late and couldn't get the kids. She even wanted me to sit in the backseat because the oldest kid was promised the front seat if he behaved properly. I explained that I had previously made a dinner reservation for 2 adults. She replied that the restaurant will just have to accommodate us when we get there. She said that she knew how to speak to people to get what she wanted. I never got into the car, just excused myself, saying that I'd forgotten something inside my apartment. I went back in only to exit to the garage. I got into my car and left without her seeing me leave. I called the friend that had set me up to explain what had just happened, and his girlfriend couldn't stop laughing for minutes. I ended up calling my sister, we're close and talk all the time, and telling her the story over dinner at the restaurant. Story 29. I matched a girl on Tinder. First date, she shows up looking nothing like her pictures, some 30 kilograms heavier, really bad or overdone makeup, and even though her profile said she's not a smoker, she had a cigarette in her mouth throughout the date more than she actually talked. I wouldn't have had an issue with any of this if she was upfront about it. The lying, on the other hand, was a massive downer. Another case was due to bad breath. In her defense, it was a medical issue, not for lack of self-care, but it made it impossible to make out comfortably, let alone have intimacy. The third story, it's from an ex. She went on a date with a guy. It was supposed to be a friends with benefits kind of thing. They've texted a lot before meeting up, and she did seize Johnson, which had a substantial curve in it. Not enough to make it uncomfortable or anything, just a curve. Well, he comes over, they get on it, and 5 minutes later, she sends him home because she just can't do it because of the curve. And yeah, our relationship didn't last long either. Story 30. I'm not sure who rejected who, actually. I've been close friends online with this guy for about 8 years. We talked almost every day about personal stuff and would get together in person once a year. But then our last meetup felt really awkward, like he was just waiting for me to go home. Flew back home, messaged him like usual, but he didn't seem to want to talk. I thought maybe he just had stuff on his mind and needed time to himself. So I decided not to bother him until he decided to message me. A week went by, 2 weeks, not even a hey or a silly meme like we would often share. I got kind of depressed, and instead of asking what was up, I got frustrated and refused to be the one to break the silence. We've never talked again since. I don't know if I did something that put him off or what, but it was a weird ending to the long friendship we'd had. Story 31. I have several stories. We went to a movie theater about 20 minutes from my house, and he turned it into a whole hour-long drive, nearly missing our movie or coming in late because he refused to take directions from me, the local, insisting he knew where he was going. We drove right past it in the highway. What do you mean you know where you're going? On another occasion, he visited me at work, blasted out of his mind, and didn't pay. It was embarrassing. I was done after that. This guy tried FaceTiming me all the time. All the time. I don't like FaceTime unless I'm close with you. I only do FaceTime anymore to accommodate my current boyfriend because I grew used to it with him. This other guy, though, it was always when he was hammered, which was a nightly occurrence. He also had to post every time he was drinking. Drinking shouldn't be a personal trait. Next. This guy also FaceTimed me all the time. Couldn't handle it. I told him I didn't like it. I didn't care. I made up excuses. I have to shower or I have to go to bed. His response? Let's just do it together. Like, no, dude, leave me alone. He was also just stupid, and I can't handle stupid people. There's other stories I can't remember, but the general theme is, don't FaceTime me if I say I don't like it, or just don't be stupid. I probably have ADHD, so I need someone intelligent enough to have mentally stimulating conversations with me. So if you can't even use the correct your, that's definitely not you. So I generally break things off if they fall into that category. Story 32. It was a combination of things all in one night. I came over for the evening and brought 2 desserts. He asked which one I wanted, and I made my choice. He was disappointed because that was the one he wanted. Okay, then why didn't you just give me the one you wanted me to have? I offered to share and started to get up to go to the kitchen to have it in half and put it on a plate for him. Nope, he takes his fingers, dirty nails and all, and sticks them in the middle of the lemon bar to get his half. He then decides he wants to drink and chooses the pitcher of orange juice in the fridge. Not paying a bit of attention, he starts to pour the juice in his glass, but the lid comes off and spills orange juice inside the burners of my electric stove. No offer to clean it up, just oops. The final straw, which was really the first, he wore patchouli oil. That stuff grosses me out. I cannot stand it. My house and chair smelled like it for days after he left. Story 33. The way he kept his house. When I first went over there, it looked relatively nice. Hardwood floors, some decorative stuff. But then I looked deeper. I opened his fridge once and saw the entire thing was brown or black. Food that was beyond saving. Apparently the fridge worked and everything, but it was just that it got dirty and never cleaned it, and it just devolved. His sink was clogged and he never fixed it, so stagnant dirty water had sat there for so long. It was starting to smell. He did things to hide it, like pile dishes on top of it and just told me he hadn't gone around to it. The worst of it, though, he never changed his sheets. Ever. He would eat in his bed, so there would be crumbs, which is alright for a minute. I do that. But I realized after like 4 months that nothing was getting washed. Same with towels. It would fold them like they had, but at one point things started to smell. I cleaned out his fridge as an act of kindness and then dumped him. Story 34. Oh man. I used to work in a coffee shop and this dude came in, all called Sharb, and had this entire conversation over the counter with me in his god-awful British accent. A whole deal, start to finish. He's clearly amusing himself with his performance and humor, but I see this line forming behind him and can see some impatience, so I do my best to finish the conversation as quickly, efficiently, and passably politely as I could. It came in a lot, and only occasionally did the accent, but, when I saw his name in an application for a position at the store, I so gleefully ripped that up and tossed it to the very bottom of the worst kitchen trash can. I'm actually a little disappointed in myself for smiling and laughing so much while I write this, but that felt so good at the time. Sorry, not sorry, Sharp. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.